What's going on, guys? And 2 years ago today, the PlayStation 5 was released to the general public, at least here in America. I don't remember what it was in the other parts of the world. I feel like it wasn't released the same day in Japan or something. But anyway, so here in the States, it was released 2 years ago today. And this is just a quick video on my thoughts of the system now. I was one of the few fortunate people that was able to get one the day it came out. And yeah, just give you my experience. Now, for those who are interested, I did a video on the Xbox side, so you can go ahead and watch that if you're curious about how it is for the Xbox 2 years later. I'm also got that the day it came out, but this video is just about the PlayStation. It may reference some Xbox things, but this video is for the PlayStation. So I have to say, when I first got the system, I didn't have the best experience. I feel like I made a video about this before, but I'm not quite for sure. But the reasoning behind it was when the PlayStation 5 first came out, it was extremely buggy. I mean, my system would crash very frequently. The network would drop from it. I had so many control issues. I actually already had to replace my controller, similar to the same thing I had to do on the Xbox. I had to replace Xbox controller already, but the PlayStation controller came pretty much almost out the box having issues. The controller would disconnect a lot of times, so me and my wife and friends, we would be playing online and we'll be in the middle of a match with another team, and the controller just automatically out of nowhere stopped working. It didn't matter if it was wireless, didn't matter if it was wired, it would just randomly disconnect. And the only way to get it working is if, I don't know if you can really tell, but on the back of the controller, there's this dot right here where I would have to put something into it, and that would reset the controller. And I have to do that quite often. So I had a bunch of issues. Now, it could have been a defective controller. I don't know. I haven't really had that issue with this new one. But it was happening so frequently. I don't remember if I don't think it stopped as soon as I got the new controller, to be honest. So the point is, I had so many software issues. I'm pretty sure there's a video out there that I made where it was complaining about all these issues when it comes to the software of the device. And it just wasn't a really good experience. Now, as far as the games that were out, playing games like Miles Morales was great when it first came out. But I really didn't feel like the PlayStation had that strong of a library, which is weird to say about Sony. But I really didn't feel like they didn't have that really good of a launch library. Because a lot of games that they were talking about that they advertised, like Ratchet and Clank, Horizon Forbidden West, Ragnarok, they were all showcased for the PlayStation 5. But when the system actually came out, none of these games were ready. So, you know, after having it for so long, now as a disclaimer, I pretty much own like every PlayStation first party game, believe it or not. And majority of them I spent my own money for. So I'm very invested into Sony's ecosystem as far as their first party games. I think the only game I really don't own is Gran Turismo, because I literally have no interest in that game. But all the other ones I do have. I will say the system looks gorgeous. One thing I'll say about Sony, when it comes to their games, I don't know what they're doing, but their games just look so gorgeous. Like, they do a great job, and as the time has gone on, and as we've gone 2 years in, their games just look even better. It's ridiculous. Like, Sony does a very great job at making their first party games look gorgeous. Now, I will say, just going back to the software issues I was having with my system, it does seem like a lot of those issues have cleared up. It seems like a lot of the problems I was having with the system, either randomly shutting itself off, not connecting to the internet, the controller disconnecting, all those issues, it does seem to have died down. The only issue I have is that some random time it won't connect to any of my wireless routers. Or even my hotspot. That happened like a couple of weeks ago. It was weird, but for the most part, it looks like Sony pushed out some update where the system is a lot more stable than it ever has been, and that's great. Now, even though the PlayStation is probably my least played system, I know that's going to sound shocking, but the reason why is because, to be honest, my PlayStation 5 is more for PlayStation exclusive games. My Xbox is more for those third-party games, and kind of my Nintendo Switch is the same way. It's mostly just for Nintendo games, Nintendo exclusives. But my Xbox is pretty much my all-around system. I play my multi-plat games on there. I play the Xbox exclusive games on there. But for the most part, that's how my PlayStation is. It's mostly just for those PlayStation exclusives. Now, you know, so yeah, I won't know as much wear and tear, and I won't know as much issues that I would probably notice on my Xbox. But I will say a big part of why I moved back to the Xbox was because I was having so many issues. At one point in time, my PlayStation 5 was my main. I played that like crazy. But because of all the issues, I slowly started merging my games back over to Xbox. So a lot of those games that have crossplay, as more game studios came out saying, hey, we're supporting crossplay now, I was like, great, I will go to the Xbox version and play that because I had a more stable experience. But like I said, with all that being the case, it does seem like the system actually runs so much better, at least for me. And I said, I don't know if it was just my PlayStation, because my wife's PlayStation in one of my older videos was having a lot of the same issues as well. So nonetheless, it does seem to have gotten better. But you know, going back to their exclusives, what really makes the PlayStation really stand out is its exclusives. Now, the system does have a lot of cool features in it. But as far as exclusives go, I still feel that the PlayStation 5 hasn't really hit its mark yet when it comes to exclusives. And I feel that it's coming more so in 2023. I feel like a lot of things going on with the pandemic and things like that kind of held back on some of the great games that came out. But for one reason or another, PlayStation games have seemed to be getting overshadowed a little bit. Horizon Forbidden West was going to be this huge big game based off of their previous game, but unfortunately Elden Ring came and knocked all the wind out of those sales. Now I know you have things like Returnal, Ratchet and Clank. I really enjoy Ratchet and Clank, but you have games like that. Ragnarok just came out. That's probably going to be one of the biggest PlayStation games in a while. But Miles Morales, Sackboy. Miles Morales is great, but it was extremely short. Sackboy is for a particular type of audience. I know you have Demon Souls. I'm trying to think what other games does PlayStation have. It's, you know, Gran Turismo. It just doesn't seem like they really have that huge, big, awesome game yet. Like I said, a lot of people are probably gonna say, well, that game is Ragnarok. So, you know. But for, you know, it kind of sucks that a lot of these games you can still get on the PlayStation 4, and this case could still be safe for the Xbox as well in a lot of ways. But I guess because Sony is more so known for their exclusive, that's the thing. You know, these console selling games, and there hasn't been one yet. So, you know, like I said, I feel like 2023 is really going to be the year where Sony branches out and they make that. They're going to have those console selling games, one of them being Final Fantasy 16, which I will be getting. But yeah, you know, the games have been good. They look great, you know, and they're fun. I just want to see more. I want to see me really using that power of that SSD more than what I'm doing right now in the processing power and things like that. But I feel like it's because the PlayStation 4 is why this is getting held back a little bit. As far as features goes, though, on the system, the PlayStation 5 came out with a bunch of features where the Xbox just kind of just copied and pasted the last generation onto the new system. PlayStation actually went and they put a new UI out there. They put more features in there, and that's great. Unfortunately, a lot of features that PlayStation 5 came out with, I just don't use. I personally don't know why game studios make all these features sometimes, because it's like they don't really get utilized at all. One thing that PlayStation came out with that I used a lot when it came out, but I really don't find myself ever needing to use it anymore, is their picture-in-picture option, but with a friend. So say, for example, my wife is in another room playing her PlayStation. I can see her screen while playing my game. You know, there were things like that. There's a little help button where it can tell you how to get achievements or trophies. You can watch a video and you can get help from the community and see how to, or the developer can make videos, how to get a certain trophy and things like that. There's a few things. I really don't use a lot of those features because, you know, when it's stuff that's outside of my gaming experience, I really don't pay it a lot of attention. Now, things like the controller, which I'll get more into the controller in a minute. If you're talking about like when you're playing a game and you have like that haptic feedback inside the buttons, or adaptive triggers, is that what they call it on PlayStation? I'm make sure I'm not getting that mixed up with Xbox. But I think it's adaptive triggers on PlayStation, but sorry if I'm wrong. But anyway, where it's like if you're loading a weapon or using a bow and arrow and you can feel the tension when you're playing Spider-Man, you're shooting a web and you can actually feel kind of like the web shooting out and attaching to a building. That is some of the coolest features, and the fact that they put that across the board is great. Even though I don't really use it, the fact that they have a full microphone setup inside the controller is awesome. But, you know, like I said, a lot of the features that Sony originally came out with, I just haven't really used. And that's not a bad thing on them. It just hasn't been that useful to me. If they use more things like a quick resume feature like Xbox, which I wish they would have, I probably would use those other features more often. But the ones that they have now just haven't really needed them for much of anything. Now, as far as the controller goes, like I said, I did have to get a controller about a year ago. It was around the year mark where I had to get another one, and that's just because the controller just started becoming unusable. It was becoming unusable and not really doing much of anything. And it just, I don't even know if it turned on at one point. It was pretty bad. So I had to go out and buy another $7 controller. Sony wanted to go through this whole process of me paying them to ship my controller out, which is absurd to me because every time I had an issue with Microsoft, if it was covered under warranty, they just replaced it. So that was a little weird to me. And because there wasn't any physical damage or anything wrong with that, I would figure that they would have just replaced it, but they didn't, which is fine, I guess. But I did have to get another controller. But the controller itself, I do love. I really go back and forth a lot of times on what controller I like more. Do I like the PlayStation 5 controller or the Series X controller? Series X controller is a little bit smaller, but it's kind of like, it's that if it's not broke, don't fix it type of process, where the PlayStation 5 just feels like a brand new everything, and I like it like that. Like I said, it's more weight to it. I really didn't like the PlayStation 4 controllers at all. The DualShock, what was it, 3 or whatever, I don't know what it's called. But this controller has a little bit more weight to it. It has a lot more features into it. Like I said, it has the microphone and everything like that. The fact that, like I said, these buttons, they have different. I thought one time my button was broken because I'm playing some game and I'm pressing the button. I'm like, it's not doing anything. Like, it's barely moving. I have to really press it down. I thought something was stuck in here. And I know it's about 2 years later, but it's just the fact that the game developers are working better and better with the software. I had this controller for already a year, so I was used to it, but it was something I was playing where I was like, oh, they're really using these buttons, and I think that's one of the best features on here. So I really do love this controller. It's probably one of the best controllers ever made, ever. And that's saying a lot. But like I said, I do go back and forth between this and the Xbox, but this is a great controller. Like, I was never a big fan of the thumbsticks being next to each other, but I will say it just feels great. It looks great. This is a great controller. I know I kind of sat on that for a minute, but that controller I actually do enjoy it. It's so comfortable. Sony did their thing with that one. Now, as far as storage goes on the system, and I talked about this in my Xbox video, the storage is not the best when it comes to either system, really. Unfortunately, Sony only gives you, I think, 800 gigabytes of hard drive space. A piece of that is taken up by the OS. I think you're only getting around high 600s. Sony, not only did it kill them that Sony only did 800 gigs, but 600 is around 600, 700 is what's usable. The problem I have with that is, same thing I have with the Xbox video. There's not enough space for these games. These games are taking too much space. So I do have an external hard drive plugged in. It's another, I think it's a 2 terabyte, I think. Maybe 1 terabyte. It's between 1 and 2 terabytes that's plugged into the back of my PlayStation. And I'm just using that for the time being. Now, I know that I can go in and open the system up. It's not really that hard. You're just taking the side shields off and unscrewing something, but you pop in another SSD. I wish Sony made it a little bit more easier, kind of way the Xbox does, where you just plug an SD card in and it works. Hopefully they'll do that in time, but as for right now, just having to do all that stuff sucks. There's times where there's a game I have on my Xbox right now, and my wife wants to play it. Instead of downloading on her Xbox, I just take the SD card out, slide it into the back of her Xbox, copy it from the SD card. I don't delete it off. I just make a copy and copy it on her Xbox. And because SSD is so fast that it's over there usually in a couple of minutes. But on the PlayStation, if I wanted to do something like that, I don't even think you can because it formats the drive, I think, every time you swap it between systems. But either way, that sucks. So little things like that. It's not anything huge. It's not a make or break, but the system, it would be great if the system did that. Like I said, Sony's pushing out a lot of updates, which is great. I would love that one day they update something where you can use a quick resume-like feature, because a lot of times I rather just play the game on the Xbox just because I have the option for quick resume. Doesn't work for everybody, doesn't work for everybody well. But the fact that the option is there is great, and I hope that more game developers push Sony to actually see if they can enable a quick resume. Game service. So within the past year, Sony has launched a new PlayStation Plus subscription to kind of try to compete with Game Pass. Now, whether it's a real competition or not, or whether they're really competing, that's a whole nother topic. But as far as it goes with Sony's new PlayStation Plus service, I would say it's a very good attempt. I feel that the PlayStation Plus service can be significantly better, especially on that premium tier. I feel like there's games that was in the old PlayStation Now service that they really should have put back in PlayStation Plus, like Metal Gear Solid 4. I was so mad that I never got to play that game, and I wanted to play it, and I was going to go play it on PlayStation Now when they switched over to Plus, and I was like, oh, that's no longer a thing anymore, because I was actually waiting for the PlayStation 5 to come out. Dumb me. Didn't realize technically it's a new service, so it doesn't mean they're going to have the same lineup of games. But I waited, and now I have the 5, and I can't play it. I still have my PlayStation 4, but the service is no longer in effect, so it doesn't even matter. I can't even go back to it. So it sucks, but I'm really hoping that Sony does some changes with that. The price, I feel like, is a little too high, but now who knows, maybe with inflation it'll work out. I'm paying $17 a month for my subscription. I really hate that I'm paying $17 a month, but I feel like Sony does have some good games. There are some games that I added from my library. A lot of them already owned, but there were some games that I didn't purchase that I've really been wanting to get around to. So I'm like, I'll go ahead and play it when I get some free time. Right now, everything's dropping, so that free time's not probably going to be until next year, but still, nonetheless, the option is still there. But ultimately, yeah, the PlayStation Plus service is great. It's good to have something to kind of give to the PlayStation fans when the Xbox fans have this service. It's still not on the level of Xbox Game Pass yet, and that's mostly just because of the fact that Game Pass does a lot of launches of games that just came out same day on the system, whether it's their games or third-party games. As of right now, Sony does not do that or does not offer that, or from what the last I've heard, they have no plans on even doing that. So hopefully in time, Sony will jump on that bandwagon to get more games pushed out to their subscription service day one when it drops. Overall, what's my experience with the PlayStation 5? What do I think about it? Is it worth the value? Personally, I will say it's a little rough, and I really could have said the same thing for the Xbox. It is a little rough when you have a system that costs $500, and in some areas now the PlayStation 5 costs even more. Is it worth buying the system when you could stick to your previous system? With all that being the case, I would still say the system's worth buying. It's $500. Most of the games are on the PlayStation 4 still, but I know eventually they're going to start killing off the PlayStation 4 lineup, and they're going to be focusing just on the PlayStation 5. The PlayStation 5 is the only system that has came out since the Switch, I think, that actually feels next gen. It actually feels like, wow, I'm stepping into a whole new world of gaming. And that says a lot because of the features that they have, the really great redefined controller, online service, and things like that. Though I wish their party chat would be more up to par with Xbox. And I heard that they may be getting Discord next year, so like the way Xbox has it. So, here's the hoping. But ultimately, I do feel like the PlayStation 5 is a good system to go out and buy. I don't agree with most of the things that Sony does as the parent company, but as far as the system goes, I feel like they're a really great system to have. And if you can, you should get it. Because you have so many options to pick from. You'll have all those really great first-party games if you haven't ever got them, and you have all those third-party games. Sony has just been doing a lot of remasters and pushing stuff to PC and doing all this stuff. So I really hope that a lot of focus doesn't get taken off of their next game to do these other things. Ultimately, I all around say I would get the PlayStation 5 hands down if you have the money, if it's in front of you, even if you have a PlayStation 4, if you have an Xbox, whatever you have, I would definitely suggest getting this because this system is so great between the features, the hardware, how good games look on this thing, how fast it runs, and it's just an all-around better experience than I had when it first came out. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This was just a quick video, just give you my thoughts. And like I said, my quick takeaway, like I said, I think this is a system to buy. What will you guys do? Go ahead and comment down below what you think about this system, what you think about the Xbox, whatever. I will be making a separate video. It'll probably be done sometime next week. That's kind of comparing the two systems together. I just have a lot on my schedule right now, but look for that probably next week. So to make sure that you get notified, go ahead and ring that bell down below or on the side or however it is on your device, and just hit that so that when I do post, you all get notified. Thanks for watching this video. I'll see you all in the next one.